In the last lesson, we looked at the inputs to the project charter, including how to develop the business case. These are the key elements to justifying the project. In this lesson, we're going to examine what should go into the project charter and look at a typical format that may work for you. The project charter is the document that formally authorizes the project. As such, it should contain the key information that documents the agreements between the sponsoring organization and the project manager on what will be done, what authority levels are granted, who the key stakeholders are, plus any constraints, timelines, or budgets. A typical list of the contents of a good project charter is shown here. At first glance, it looks like a lot of information in a long document. However, in reality, the project charter should be a 1 to 2 page document highlighting the key aspects of the project. Let's discuss some of the key elements by having a look at a project charter template included in the resources section of this specialization. First, the project charter should contain the project name and the authorization date, or the date the document was issued. It might also be a good idea to add a revision number in case the project charter is revised and issued at a future date. The next section should contain the project description containing a 1 or 2 sentence description of the project. What are we trying to accomplish? We also should include the project purpose. This includes the business case or reason for pursuing the project. What are we really trying to accomplish? It might be to build a prototype vehicle that will demonstrate available technology as a viable means to build and operate a very low emissions vehicle. In most organizations, this will not include the actual numbers from the business case we reviewed in the last lesson, but instead the strategic goals and objectives that the project will achieve. These might be increased market share, or in the case of the electric car case, demonstrate the technology for future development. Next comes the project scope. This is different than the project description, that we should include a high-level description of the work we're about to undertake. It might be develop an electric car from commercially available parts to complete in a race on a certain date. Or the project will design and construct an approved design for a battery-powered single-seat car. The project scope should also describe what is excluded from the project. We need to include a list of requirements for the project to be successful and a list of deliverables from the project. A really good project charter includes the success criteria for each deliverable. This is important in that it provides a benchmark to measure whether you have achieved the requirements. Without these criteria, the deliverables could be subject to a subjective evaluation. The classic, "I'll know what I want when I see it" approach. The project charter should also contain any information that is available on schedule milestones or requirements. These might include the start dates, in-service date, any approval dates, etc. It is also good to include any budget limitations, assumptions, and constraints, and major risks known at the time of the authorization. The assumptions and constraints section documents key dependencies that are key to the project's success, such as the plan is based on finding an expert, or the project cannot start until the money is available. This section should also include any other known limits on the project. I also like to include a references section in the project charter. This is a good place to list similar projects can be used as a go-by, or to reference specific specification standards that might be used. As an example, the reference section might say, the project will be designed in accordance with company standards. The key stakeholders section should include as a minimum the client, project sponsor, the project manager, and any other key persons essential to the project. The list does not need to be exhaustive, as we include the more comprehensive list as part of the stakeholder register. The project charter should define the level of authority of the project manager and others who have authority over the project. It should list any project approval requirements. You should list any known project exit criteria. What are the circumstances on which the project manager should suspend work and go back to the project sponsors for further instructions or cancel the project outright? Finally, the project charter should contain the approval signatures of the authorizing group, the project sponsor to indicate his or her authorization to proceed, the project manager to indicate his or her acceptance of the charter, and the finance manager to indicate that the budget is available. I think if you reflect on the contents of the project charter for a minute, you will realize that it would be difficult to scope, schedule, plan, and budget a project without gathering these data. If the data is not compiled in a single document when you start your project, you may want to interview and interface with the key players, gather the information to be included, and create your own charter. Remember, one key to a successful project is a successful start. And a successful start depends on having the proper information and agreement from the key stakeholders on that information. The next step is creating a project plan. We'll start this process in the next lesson.